we went in there, and it was a very small, little, tiny little room. And I said to my son, I said, just go in the bathroom, see if you feel anything in there, son. And he got touched by something. I don't know what it was, but I mean, he just literally shot out of there like a horse at the races, with the, with the gate open. I came down later, and he was, sitting outside it, so I mean, things, whenever you're not prepping people for this, I mean, there's something to be said about, oh, well, we're going to go into this haunted house. Tell me if you feel haunted. I mean, if you go to Portland and take one of those underground tours, and then they take you to this room, for the first 5 minutes beforehand, they're saying, oh, we're going to take you to the haunted room now. We're going to take you to the haunted room now. And, and then you go in there, and then next thing you know, it's like, did anybody feel anything? And then, it's sort of like at that point in time, you kind of say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go along with it. But, but if you weren't put up to it and nobody had primed your brain to think that was what it was. But it was interesting, Gary, to think why that started happening to you more and more. And it sort of tweaked in my brain a little bit to ask you this question.
Go ahead.
When you started, you were using sort of traditional 35 millimeter cameras. Is that correct? And then you went towards digital cameras.
Well, the market. I mean, I was one of the first people in the United States to have a digital SLR camera. Right. Because besides other things, I was a very noted photographer at one point. And things went to digital. Film started dying. Digital cameras started coming in really strong in the early 2000s, even late 1990s. I mean, digital was just starting to come out. So, but they had a problem. Dust would get on the sensor, and they had to be clean. The only way I can clean them is be there late at night.
Yeah. And so there was a lot more, would you say a lot more batteries and electronic equipment in the basement than there was previous to that?
No, the basement didn't have actually kept it. What was in the basement was like soft boxes, backgrounds. Oh, okay. We'd sell a lot of laminate to the military. Would come in, and we, for their IDs, we had a contract with the government. We had a big section of laminates, a different type of laminates. So, that's the type of stuff we had in there, plus a little bit of film and some chemicals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I was just asking the question because, a lot of times, and this is the thing, again, I don't know that much about ghost hunting and all that other stuff, but it just seems to me like external power sources or batteries or these types of things seem to manifest what people claim to be, other entities being able to travel through. I have a feeling that, in a lot of ways, from what I was told, I sort of have this Celtic Christian tradition of being taught a lot of different things about, mythology and different things like that, as well as, Christianity and things. And, well, we were always taught that the spirits are around you no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's the day. I mean, just because if you're afraid, you don't be afraid of the dark. It's the same thing there that's in the daytime that's in the dark. It's still there. You just can't see it. You can't see it at night. You can't see it in the daytime. But, so it is interesting to see that, a lot of people, are having, or at least admitting to these experiences more. And it's funny because I have a friend of mine who's a restaurateur in Seattle, and he owns the Irish bar Kells. And it used to be it's in the building of the old morgue, the Seattle morgue.
Oh, wow.
And, and I think for a long time, whenever they had that, they were always. And this is a guy who, my family's known their family for quite a long time, and they're not the type of person that would put this on to get somebody through the door, because genuinely Ethna, the mother of the family, was a very religious person, and so she wouldn't want to mess around with ghosts and everything like that, and so she used to things would come off the bar shelves and fall onto the ground, and so then they put in a Virgin Mary above the bar, and it got moved around, and and all those different types of things, and she had to have a priest in to bless it and everything else, and so but it was interesting that they used to say that the top floors, just like what you described, it's funny whenever you don't realize in a lot of these old towns, that anything past the first floor is basically a facade. You get up there, it's like there's not much to it. There used to be walls in there, they rip them all out and everything like that, and that's where they said that they used to get a lot of different stuff. As far as phenomena and things like that. So it's not uncommon, and especially the way that Tacoma, Everett, and Seattle really waterfront pass, have terrible stories, and most people don't even remember them.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's face it, Tacoma and Everett and all those seaports, where the ships that come in. You have to remember too, at the turn of the century, it was quite common, right, to basically get somebody in a bar, right, get them drunk, and then Shanghai them, and put them on a ship, and they'd be stuck out, having to be a deckhand on a ship, till they can get out and get free somehow. And that was quite common. I mean, that Seattle, Everett, because I have done research on that. Tacoma, San Francisco, places like that were noted for that.
Well, you've got a lot of itinerant people who came in here for looking for. I mean, even my dad's side of the family is American, and so my grandpa Beagle, when he came out from Ohio during he hitched a train and came out here and cut down trees and stuff, and then went back. But there was a lot of single men who were out here, and had maybe some money from working up in the camps or the gold mines or the lumber camps or whatever, and they'd go to the town, and they'd lose their money faster than they got it, usually. But and then you've got the history. A lot of people don't realize this. Seattle and Everett and Tacoma actually had sort of the first people that had like the Wobblies, like the first union type things, and a lot of the big bosses, of the shingle mills and the lumber camps and stuff. They just wanted to shut that down, and I know that if in Everett there, I used to have a little pub down by the Hewitt in Everett, and I swear to God that place was haunted too. But the funny thing about it is that the Everett massacre had happened there in 1914, and a bunch of people had died, and they didn't actually know how many people had died because they came up from Seattle on this mosquito fleet, pulled into town, and then the posse was ready for them. They had this big gun battle on the wharf.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of people don't know that, and they were beating people up beside the Everett Theater, and so it's got to be a lot of good ghost places around here.
Well, see, I don't even know if they're ghosts or because I've had a lot of mediums, all these on the show, and each one has told me a little bit, different, how it works. All I know is myself, just like the Bigfoot thing. I can only share my experience, okay? But it's pretty bad when you have an ex-Navy SEAL freak out and tell you, "Hey, Gary, I'm not going down that basement anymore. You can fire me," or or people like that. It just, it tells me I don't know what they were. I don't know what was going up and down the stairs. I mean, I never physically saw anything, but I heard strange things. So, I mean, you can sit there, and if you can convince me maybe the building was settling and there was making footstep noise, hey, that's one thing, I don't know. That's what I love about the paranormal. Okay.
Well, it's great.
But what I don't like, honestly, is I've had a couple paranormal groups where I actually hit the kill button, and that was the end of them. I dumped them off the show. There's a couple different groups of people in the paranormal. Okay, you have the one person out there who's trying to make themselves famous. Okay,
right.
like a ghost hunting groups. Okay, that they'll do anything they can to try to get on a cable channel. That's their whole goal. It's not so much trying to find, ghosts or what have you. Their whole goal in life is to, get a ghost finder, a hunting show on a cable channel. I've had somebody on here. That's what their whole goal was. And I pushed the dump button. That was the end of them. Because they're not taking it serious. The other one is if you honestly, now my radio career started I would say around 1976. Okay, so I've been around radio all my life. I mean, I was 10 years old. My parents came home, or my dad came home, handed me a CB. And, I started talking on CB back in the early 60s. From there, I was a licensed amateur by the time I was 12 years old. I like talking. Right. Okay, but now what you find, you go on the internet, and this really bugs me really bad, okay? Mm-hmm. On my show, all I can do is bring people on I think that you'll enjoy listening to. You either agree or don't agree with what they say, and you take it as a grain of salt. It's entertainment. That's all I'm offering you is entertainment. I'm not saying that what you say is true or what I say is true. All I can say is I'm offering entertainment. Okay, right. Now you go on to the internet and you start listening to all these different paranormal shows. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me want to pull my hair out. For one, they have no respect for you, the listener, or their guest. Right. And, they're just saying stuff to say it, mm-hmm. and they have no knowledge. Yeah. And I listen to these shows, and they sound like they're being done on a kitchen table. Their educational level sounds like they were probably 6th grade level. And you can get mad at me, people, and send me a message. I don't care. But that's when, going back about 9-10 months now, I knew Art Bell. I was not a close friend of Art Bell, but I known Art Bell for years. I was his outer circle of friends with him. But, he kept inviting me to take my Harley and come, perump and hang around with him for a while. And, back about 10 months ago, I called him up and we were talking. I said, I'm retired. I love riding my Harley, but, I'm getting old. I'm 66 years old. When I ride a 300-mile ride now, I hurt for days. And he goes, Gary, do what you used to do. Get back into radio. You were good at it. And I thought about it. Hey, I'm retired. I used to enjoy radio. I like talking. So that's how I started my show. And I try to let everybody make their own decision when I bring a guest on, because that's only right. So, either you can agree with me, like I have a person right now, it basically thinks I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, that's cool. You have your opinion.
Yeah. But you know what Art would have said, right?
I know what Art told me. Honestly,
he would have said, "Be yourself."
Yeah, you know what Art told me? Art says he didn't even really believe in the paranormal. That's what Art told me. But he lets everybody, unless they were so outrageous, right. He let them, tell their story, and take them, as he used to say, take them down the well. Right.
Well, and I think that the good part about it is that Art understood that very, and whenever he was interviewed, I was listening to an interview he did the other day with a CIA guy, an ex-CIA guy, and it was basically talking about some different things that I thought was quite relevant, and his questioning was right on topic, as far as some of the things that he asked, and those are the things that matter. I mean, I as far as education levels of hosts and stuff like that, you do have to have a host that is of a level of intelligence that can understand the nuance of that situation. You know what I'm saying? If you're